engaging with you on what I see as two unspoken premises in TAG, in the Transcendental Argument for God. Do you have time for that?
I mean, it's not the topic, but what is it?
Sure. It seems to me that the two unspoken premises in your argument are, one, that God, the existence of God, your God, justifies your epistemology, ethics, and metaphysics.
Mm-hmm.
You often say that you've made this clear in your videos, but I've never been able to find the video where actually
it's called From Tag to Trinity.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Okay.
And anyway, and then the second, if the second unspoken premise, it seems to me in TAG, is that there is that materialism, empiricism, these other worldviews cannot account for your three aspects of a worldview.
Yes, no, that's all. That's correct. Those are all. I would say those are entailed by the argument. Yes.
Yes, and so what I'm saying is, in logic, there's a difference between something that is unaccounted for and something that is uncomputable. In order for that to be a premise in your argument, the question of the justification by those other worldviews has to be uncomputable, not just unaccounted for. And that requires, usually in mathematics and logic, a rigorous proof. For example, the three-body problem is rigorously proved to not have a solution.
But this is not a first-order level of argumentation question. It's actually an argument that is prior to logic itself. So even though the argument assumes logic, it's a category error to say that I have to prove logic first or have a rigorous sort of syllogism before I can make this argument, if the nature of the argument itself is actually prior to logic, which is why this is a unique argument. So no, I don't have to do that.
You misunderstand my question, and perhaps I'm not making it clearly enough. What I'm saying is that there would have to prove something to be uncomputable requires that it has to be self-contradictory, not just missing an explanation. Right? That's the difference between a math problem to which
but that is what we argue.
That doesn't have a solution.
That is what we argue.
Versus analytic distinction.
No, that is what we are arguing. We're arguing that not only is it incomputable, it also is contradictory, such that it makes knowledge impossible. That's the argument.
Okay, so I'm interested if you would please make the unstated premise then. Just demonstrate the uncomputability. If anyone can do it, you can, Jay.
Yeah, so again, the non-Christian worldviews cannot account for knowledge, ethics, and metaphysics in the sense of justified true belief plus Gettier problem. It can't do that. And how does it not do that? Because those worldviews necessarily have fundamental contradictions that make those three domains impossible to know or to have.
Can I give you my attempt at a materialistic metaphysics that
Sure.
is, yeah, okay. And thanks for hearing me out on this. In my sort of metaphysics, in my materialist metaphysics, there is a gamut of all the possible propositions that are candidates for truth and falsehood. All those propositions have a subject and a predicate. Now, the analytic propositions are pretty easy to account for. The subject is matter, and the predicate is also matter, and there's an is in the middle of the proposition, right? I could say my arm is a limb. That's an analytic proposition. You remember that? I'm using that correctly from your philosophy classes? Those are pretty easy. The second category would be the synthetic propositions, and in these, the subject-predicate distinction is synonymous with the matter-energy distinction insofar as the proposition doesn't have an inherent contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, this is all a bunch of assertions, and I don't even grant you that you can make sentences. So how do you know that sentences actually make sense of the external world?
I'm happy to do that. Mm-hmm. So because the matter-energy distinction is very similar, though not synonymous, with sort of the noun-verb distinction in linguistics.
How do you know that? How do you know that? So you're already using metaphysical.
I could make as a
No, you couldn't. No, you can't. No, you can't.
motion.
No.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're already using all kinds of metaphysical claims and terms that are absolutely unjustified. You start talking about propositions and truth value of the propositions and energy and matter. I don't grant that you can make sense of what energy or matter is.
Well, why not? I interact with them every day. I have.
No, that's begging the question. It's begging the question. That you interact with them is the thing in question. What is energy or matter? Those are very generic terms, and you're just assuming that there's some sort of self-evident, notion of what energy even is.
You're doing Cartesian doubt now.
No, I'm actually doing.
I doubt everything I see, feel.
No, this is a basic bitch. It's not even Cartesian doubt, because I would make the same argument refuting Descartes. I can use Kant's critique of Descartes, because in Descartes he doesn't have an account for time determination, and the argument assumes time determination. I'm just saying the same thing to you. How do you have a determination of what energy is as some propositional truth value content or meaningful content?
Oh, it's just as simple. It's the other side of the coin, right? Energy is what matters.
You're just asserting again the thing. You're just asserting the thing in question. You're asserting the thing in question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're asserting the thing in question. How do I know that the word energy or matter corresponds to anything meaningful in the world?
I'm just asserting normal use of those things.
That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. Just asserting normal use is a fallacy, and I can just assert normal use of my positions if that's a justification.
No, excuse me. That's why I started this, and you'll recall that I started this with the synthetic analytic distinction, which comes from the very...
Okay, how do you know the synthetic analytic? How do you know that? Okay, let's just move it back a step. How do you know that the Kant synthetic analytic distinction is true?
Well, because it's... the distinction itself is an analytic claim, right? He says that there's this...
Well, how do I know?
Proposition, the analytic proposition. And your viewers, I'm going to make it...
No, that's not true. That there is a distinction between synthetic and analytic propositions is not true by definition.
Excuse me. Can I finish?
Well, you've already said something that's not true. That's not the case.
No. These are called containment premises in Kant, right? That is to say, all young men are young, right? This is a predicate contained in the subject.
The question was I know that. I know what analytic statements are. What I'm asking you is,
and then the distinction is merely the observation that there is another.
How do you know that doesn't prove that it's the case? If you read the Quine paper, you would know that you would be in a circle about the linguistic signifiers actually matching up to anything. And Quine's paper is just continuing the Kantian skeptic tradition. And so that's why you didn't want me to go to Descartes and the whole skeptical tradition, because it undoes the analytic-synthetic distinction or the phenomenal-noumenal distinction. If the skeptic position is true, I can just keep doing the skeptic position to refute your assertions on a materialist paradigm. It's just Humean. I'm just making Hume's argument.
No, I hear Hume's argument. Mm-hmm. I've never really agreed with Hume's argument.
Well, that's great. Now give a justification for your meaningful. Give a justification for your meaningful predications.
Excuse me. You were denying the distinction between the analytic.
No, I didn't. No, I said, how do you justify that it's true on your worldview? I didn't deny it.
Okay, so you do believe in the distinction.
You can make that distinction. I want to know how you justify it.
Yes, I'm using the distinction.
I don't care that you use it. What's the justification for the distinction itself being true and and actually the case in the world?
For the proposition I'm making to be uncomputable.
That doesn't tell me that it's true in the world.
One that is lacking.
That doesn't tell me that the synthetic analytic distinction is true. That you use it doesn't tell me it's true.
Sorry?
That you use it doesn't tell me that it's true.
Of course not. However,
then tell me why it's true.
I'm trying to show you that it's consistent.
You just argued at the beginning that just because something is consistent, the Lord of the Rings narrative is consistent. That doesn't make it true.
No argument from me here, brother, on the Lord of the Rings. However, what I'm saying is the distinction between something that is true and something that is consistent is the distinction between something that is merely lacking content versus something that is incomputable. Tag is built upon the incomputability, right?
That's just part of the argument. We already went through this. That's just
the materialist worldview. Now, what I'm saying is
there is no materialist worldview.
I can actually I think I can charitably make the other side waste your time.
Well, I want to know why I'm supposed to believe that the analytic-synthetic distinction is actually true. Give me the justification for that, because that's where you're beginning.
Because the analytic side of it is true, right?
So because analytic is true, it's true.
One is also 1/2 plus 1/2.
You're just restating what an analytic proposition is, which I didn't disagree. I want to know why the analytic-synthetic distinction is justified and true. Maybe it is. Tell me why.
Occurs if there is a kind
You're
of
just restating the position.
A candidate for truth and falsehood, which is not analytic.
You're restating the position. I know the position. Why is it true? I don't need to hear it restated for the 10th time.
Right. It is true because there are propositions that are not analytic and are candidates for truth.
So it's true because it's true by definition.
A young man.
Okay, this is not going. This is stupid.
A young man is strong. Is a candidate
I know what analytic synthetic statements are. Analytic is true by definition. Synthetic is about the world, a posterior. I know all that. Why it's true is a different layer of level of questioning, and you just keep restating for the 10th time the analytic synthetic distinction, as if it's maybe it is self-evident. If it's self-evident, please tell me why you can say that it's just self-evident as an epistemic justification, and I can't just do that for the opposite position. So you understand, in a debate, if you allow people to say, well, this is just self-evident, the opponent in the debate can say, well, all of my propositions, which are the opposite of your propositions, are also self-evident. Now, maybe they are, maybe they're not. That doesn't matter, because it's a debate about justifying the first principles. And you can't just appeal to restating what the analytic synthetic distinction is. By the way, that's a blast from the past. I haven't thought about Kant in like 3 years. So